Is Kirby Smart too emotional? He said he was, or at least he talked about that with Mike Krzyzewski, the coach at Duke, this past week during an interview. I think this is actually a very interesting topic. Coaches are always self-evaluating. They call it self-scout, scouting themselves, or whatever you want to call it. But do you think Kirby Smart is too emotional? I think that's a good question, and I want to talk about it for a while because I think the fundamental answer is no. I do not think he's too emotional. I think he is being who he is. I think the term emotional often has a negative connotation. I think that in my experience covering Kirby through the years, um, he's passionate, which I think is a better description for the way that he coaches and all of that. If you ride by during practices, you can hear him on the microphone. That doesn't stop. And then obviously, if you see him in games, he's always, and here he is on the back cover of DAWGSTRUCTION. It's a link that you can pick it up below. He wasn't super emotional after the game, like on the stage, but if you're not going to get emotion out of Kirby Smart, then you're not getting Kirby Smart. And I think that because of what I do um on the field during games, I'm privy to a lot of um, stuff that the folks in the press box don't get a chance to see and hear. Dog Instruction link is right down below. And because of that, you get a better understanding, I think, of the way in which he coaches on the field. And it's really more instructive than I would call it more instructive and passionate than I would call it emotional. Emotion, I think that if you're allowing your emotions to take hold of your critical thinking at any one moment, then yeah, you're too emotional. I mean, and I have never found Kirby Smart to be emotional in a way that's negative. Um, Here's another thing he talked about in terms of the way he is on game day, when the same sort of discussion of emotion. You get that by the way you practice and the things you do at practice. I'm very similar every day at practice. In the games, I think they see emotions. They know, hey, it's the same way that coach was in practice. If a guy makes a play, I'm just as excited as he is in the game. And that is true, by the way, and trying to bring that energy and enthusiasm to them. So, what Kirby does, I do not think would work in the NFL. Okay, it's too much for that league. But in the sport that I cover, the sport that everyone watching this loves, you need to be a particular way in order to. You have to have emotion, and it's something that's important. Now, with Nick Saban, who has been the most successful coach in college football history, I think the emotion is a little bit more cold-blooded. His passion is watching guys grow and implementing a system that he thinks works, and obviously does. The results speak for themselves. So there's different ways of doing things. I also want to say that uh, people people often say, "Oh, they're just being who they are." That's true, but that's often used as an excuse for coaches being acting like just being honest, acting like assholes. That's not a good reflection of things. Just being who you are. If you mean being the person that you are and not, you know, hurting others or putting others down or covering for a mistake, something you said that was idiotic or some action that you took. If you're saying, hey, I'm just being who I am, and you mean that in a positive way and not a negative way, then yeah, that's true, because I do believe you have to be what you are, who you are, etc. But that comes with core values. There's things you have to adhere to. Okay, so if Kirby were to all of a sudden become overly stoic on the sideline, emotionless, not celebrating with players after big moments, you'd wonder what's wrong. So, in that sense, he's being who he is. But I don't think he's too emotional at all. I think sometimes he can be too analytical, frankly, and I think he would agree with that. Um, because I find myself with the same problem. You have to be both. There's a fine line in decision making, um, and letting emotions rule the day is no more positive necessarily than strictly relying on numbers exclusively. Numbers are a guide, just the same way that your emotion or your quote gut is a guide. You have to balance out what you're doing. The reality is that if you're prepared for the moment won't overdo it for you. You'll have your championship moment. You'll lift your trophy. There was no time during Kirby's tenure that I felt like he would go without a national championship at Georgia. I think I've said that on here a lot. I think I prefaced it often by saying it's time, and it has been time. Um, I don't. I read something Lauren Smith, my old friend Lauren Smith, wrote not so long ago, where he said he believes this is the first of Georgia's national championships under Kirby Smart. I think that's true too. Um, but I think right now Kirby's in a reflective uh, moment, or he was, and I think you always should be reflective because it helps you figure out with if what you did was right or not. I remember when we finally got bounced in a basketball tournament. That was a terminal game. Walking in on my coach, calling who had called another coach, asking if he felt like he had made mistakes in what he did coaching the game. That happens a lot. You have to be reflective. Am I doing a good job in what I'm doing? But the emotion, I don't think Kirby's too emotional. I think that's what he is. And I don't think that he's making an excuse for something that he did wrong in saying, I am what I am. He's always believed in this particular fashion of doing things. Yes, he saw that work with Nick. And the only other person there's two other people that are coaching right now in college football with it's three. Excuse me. Let me add another one. So you got Mac Brown, Dabo, and Jimbo. Uh, I guess Nick Saban's the only one with a halfway normal first name, but um, I think Jimbo and Kirby both have tried and successfully at Georgia at least did implement a system that has worked with the things that Nick implemented at Alabama. What Clemson did what Dabo did at Clemson is not the same as what is going on at Alabama, Georgia. I'm not hating on that. It's not the same. It's a different formula. The formula is getting exceptional quarterbacks, generational quarterbacks that happen to play at your institution uh, uh, twice in a 3-year period. So I'm not putting that down. You can do that. That didn't happen for Ohio State with Justin Fields. It's not a guarantee to win, just like no other formula is a guarantee to win. It helps to have an exceptional quarterback, but Stetson Bennett, Jake Coker, and others prove that you don't have to have that. It does help, though. Let me tell you, it helps. So I think you got to be who and what you are. And as long as you're not using that phrase to cover up some dumb thing that you've said or done, then it's true. I also think that emotion is a critical part of college football, and it should be a critical part of everyone's life. As long as they don't overwhelm you, then you're doing the right thing. No, Kirby, I don't think you're too emotional. I think sometimes Kirby is too analytical with some of the going for it here or going for it there, and the analytics prove this. Yeah, they do, but they've bitten him in the butt more than a couple of times. I mean, I think the Tennessee game in 20, going for it right there in your own backyard, I didn't like that call. Yeah, you should be able to get that short amount of yardage, but your quarterback was real small. And I'm not gonna. I mean, that didn't kill me at the time, but that's just an example of that sort of stuff. No, I don't think Kirby's too emotional, but he does show emotion. People like it. And I, one thing I didn't talk about was this speech here against Florida, which we talk about in the book too. Uh, Physically, I want to break them. This is one of the greatest speeches ever. That's the emotion that maybe he would like to pull back on, but I don't think he should. I think that's who he is. I think if you moderate that, if you try to get away from what you are, that's a positive. I think you're making a mistake, but I don't think he is. I think he's being reflective and judging things, looking backwards. Hey, make sure you're picking up the book, DAWGSTRUCTION. Click the link right down below. Thanks to everybody for picking it up. Hey, they're getting shipped out this coming week, I believe. So we'll see you over on the website. Make sure you're getting it right now.